Look, I have had these lingering contract questions on my mind all week, and it is time we address the status of Jonathan Taylor and Quenton Nelson. We are seeing major stars across the league hold out for new deals, and now both Taylor and Nelson are entering the final years of their contracts with the Indianapolis Colts. This creates a massive amount of uncertainty for the franchise as we head toward training camp. Honestly, there are really two things we need to talk about here: the specific terms of these situations and what this means for our championship window. The more details come out, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your name and city in the comments below. Let us get into it. As we head into training camp, the Indianapolis Colts are facing a familiar and unsettling shadow over our roster regarding the contract status of star running back Jonathan Taylor. It feels like just yesterday that we were sweating through the 2023 season as he navigated a long negotiation before finally signing a 3-year, $42 million extension. Now, with Taylor entering the final year of that deal, the clock is ticking once again on our most explosive playmaker. Taylor has been an absolute workhorse for this franchise, putting together back-to-back seasons with over 1,400 rushing yards in 2024 and 2025, while leading the entire league in rushing touchdowns last year. His performance has silenced any previous concerns about his injury history, making him the undisputed heartbeat of our offense at just 27 years old. And here's why that's a big deal for us as fans. We have heard him express a genuine desire to remain a Colt for life, yet the lack of a fresh deal creates a palpable anxiety in the fan base that remembers all too well how quickly these situations can turn sour. We are watching a similar story play out with our All-Pro guard Quenton Nelson, who is also entering the final year of his current contract. While the guard market has not exploded as drastically as other positions, his future remains a significant question mark for the front office under Chris Ballard. If the team is prioritizing long-term stability, we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. With both of these pillars of our offense looking at uncertain futures, how much salary cap flexibility can Shane Steichen really afford to sacrifice right now before the front office is forced to make a gut-wrenching choice between keeping our offensive identity intact or pivoting toward a complete rebuild of the line? Quenton Nelson is silently inching toward a massive crossroads as he enters the final year of his deal without an extension in place. While we often fixate on skill position players, the reality is that the foundation of our offense rests on his performance at guard. Nelson signed his current 4-year, $80 million contract back in 2022, which briefly made him the highest-paid guard in the entire NFL. Since that time, the market has steadily shifted, with the Cowboys recently setting a new benchmark at $24 million per year. The part fans are not ready for is how quickly this situation could turn into a distraction for Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard if it remains unaddressed throughout training camp. Historically, our front office under the guidance of Carly Ursay-Gordon has preferred to reward proven internal leaders. Yet they are always mindful of how individual contracts impact the overall cap flexibility for this roster. From the perspective of the coaching staff, they surely value the consistency Nelson provides. But Ballard must weigh the long-term cost against the evolving price of the offensive line market. It is worth remembering that negotiations for core players can be delicate, especially with a veteran who has been the anchor of our front five for so many seasons. We have seen how contract uncertainty can weigh on a locker room, and while Nelson has been a consummate professional, the business side of the game never sleeps. Management is likely waiting to see how the early schedule unfolds before committing more capital to the trenches, balancing his track record against the potential for rising costs elsewhere. As Indianapolis Colts fans, we recognize that keeping our best blockers protected is the only way to ensure success, even if it forces some tough financial conversations before the season hits its full stride. Think about it this way: we are at a crossroads where the financial future of our most vital offensive weapons threatens to disrupt the stability Shane Steichen has worked so hard to build. Having both Jonathan Taylor and Quenton Nelson entering the final years of their respective contracts presents a significant challenge for GM Chris Ballard. These negotiations are not just about balance sheets. They involve the very heart of our offensive identity. If we cannot secure our best playmaker and our highest paid lineman before the season kicks off, we risk a lingering distraction that could permeate the locker room during pivotal division matchups against the Texans and the Titans. The salary cap implications are substantial as the guard market continues to evolve and running back valuations remain in flux across the entire league. If these situations are not resolved quickly, we might see a shift in our offensive efficiency, which would undoubtedly complicate our path to the playoffs. We rely on the synergy between Taylor and Nelson to control the line of scrimmage, and any uncertainty regarding their future security could weigh heavily on the team during intense fourth-quarter drives. Protecting our investment in our core players is essential for maintaining a competitive edge in a crowded AFC South. We need that veteran leadership and consistency on the field to navigate a grueling regular season schedule that demands perfection. Without clear long-term commitments, we are essentially gambling with the prime years of our roster. As Indianapolis Colts fans, we recognize that the difference between an early playoff exit and a championship run often comes down to the focus and peace of mind our star players possess. Balancing the books is important, but keeping this core group unified and fully committed to the mission remains the ultimate priority for this organization as training camp finally gets underway. As Indianapolis Colts fans, we find ourselves watching two critical contract situations with Jonathan Taylor and Quenton Nelson that could define our immediate future. The argument for prioritizing Taylor is simple. He is our most dynamic playmaker, having posted consecutive seasons with over 1,400 rushing yards in 2024 and 2025, while leading the league in rushing touchdowns during that second campaign. Securing him long-term protects our offensive identity. However, the risk is undeniable. General Manager Chris Ballard has rightfully cited Taylor's injury history as a point of contention in the past. And giving a massive deal to a running back entering his late 20s is always a gamble. What nobody is talking about is how the market for guards like Quenton Nelson remains surprisingly stable, as he could easily reset the bar above the $24 million currently earned by the Cowboys' Tyler Smith. If the team hesitates, we risk losing the interior anchor of our offensive line. Experts around the league are closely tracking both situations, noting that the status of other runners like Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs will likely dictate the price floor for Taylor. While some analysts suggest that the Colts must act aggressively to avoid a repeat of the 2023 dispute, I find that perspective a bit short-sighted. Here is where I land on this. While Taylor is undoubtedly vital, we must be careful not to overextend our salary cap simply to appease rising market trends if the numbers do not make fiscal sense for the organization. We need to balance loyalty to our veteran stars with the necessity of maintaining a deep competitive roster. It is a delicate dance between honoring past contributions and ensuring the longevity of our championship window under Coach Shane Steichen. But I am confident that Carly Ursay-Gordon will provide the necessary resources to keep our core talent in Indianapolis for the long haul. When we look at how these unfolding contract stories impact our future, it becomes clear that we are at a pivotal crossroads regarding how we invest in our foundation. The bottom line here is that maintaining a core of proven, high-performing veterans like Jonathan Taylor and Quenton Nelson is essential if Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard hope to build a sustainable championship contender. For us fans, this is a time to feel both optimistic and appropriately cautious because these players are the heartbeat of our success. Yet the reality of the salary cap requires careful balancing. We should feel confident because our front office has a track record of rewarding internal talent who deliver results on the field. Taylor leading the league in rushing touchdowns in 2025 and Nelson continuing his dominance as a top offensive lineman provide the kind of stability that every successful team craves. However, keeping both under contract while looking toward future draft classes and depth pieces is a complex puzzle that demands patience from the fan base. We want to see our stars stay in Indianapolis for their entire careers. But we must also respect the fiscal discipline that allows this franchise to remain competitive year after year. If we manage these extensions wisely, the next few seasons could truly define our era of winning football. To get your take on these critical decisions, if you had to prioritize just one of these two stars to secure a long-term deal right now, would you lock up Jonathan Taylor or Quenton Nelson first? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. For the shoe, I'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned for more Colts content as we break down every single offseason move, draft pick, and roster decision coming soon.